Good evening and welcome once again to the Marty Heiser Show. We've got a pretty incredible show tonight. We are going to go to the heavens and back. The first half of the show, we're joined by author C.J. Golden, who's going to talk about her very inspirational book. The name of the book is Reflections from Beyond, about an incredible man that she happened to cross paths with. Now, C.J. Golden lives in Newtown, Connecticut, which of course was the scene of an unspeakable tragedy a little over a year ago now. And it's such a comfort to hear the story about Tracy LaCroix, and a man who ended up going to the hospital for surgery, ended up having heart failure, and actually passed away for something like an hour and a half. And his experiences and what he came back understanding about his life, about what happens after you die, and then also a new understanding of what his purpose is here now. It's incredible the way that my first guest, C.J. Golden, actually met Tracy, and she's here to tell the whole story. C.J., thank you so much for coming in.
It's so good to be here.
I really appreciate you making the time, and I was really taken. I read your book on a flight from Chicago to Seattle. I wrote it down, and I just found it absolutely riveting. It's incredible.
And you told everyone sitting next to you also. Right?
I did, and I told them that if they go to Amazon.com and put in C.J. Golden, it will pop up and they can get it there. But that's really incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't mean to outline it too much, but how did you cross paths, and then what was Tracy LaCroix's whole story?
Oh, well, I believe that these serendipitous events happen for a reason, and I don't take any of them for granted. It was a trip that I took down through Virginia, stopped at a hotel in Cape Charles. There was no reason for us to be, my husband and I, and he was on a bicycle, and his cyclist friends, no reason for us to really have stopped in Cape Charles. But for some reason, the guy who laid out the route did it and had us stop at this one particular hotel. No reason to be at that particular hotel either. It wasn't particularly charming. It was on the highway. And I went in and I met innkeeper Tracy LaCroix, who had coincidentally, only arrived there 5 or 6 weeks prior to my meeting him. Nice guy, likes to talk. He said, yeah, you know, he came from New Hampshire and
now you say in your book that you're by nature kind of a nosy. I think you called yourself a busybody.
No,
and you were
did
just
I say busybody?
I believe it's on page 17.
Oh, I did that.
And then you just sort of struck up a conversation.
Well, I love meeting people, and I love stories. And when I do these trips, when my husband does these trips and they're less than 3 months long, I like to go along. I have an opportunity to sit and go to little restaurants and cafes and meet people. Sometimes it becomes a blog. In this case, it became a book. I guess it was something comfortable in me that allowed Tracy to say, well, he went from New Hampshire to Springfield, Massachusetts. And by the way, in Springfield, Massachusetts, he died 11 months before I'd met him. Nobody, you don't let that go, right?
Yeah, that isn't like, hey, how about those Mets?
Yeah, that's
what do you think?
And what do you think about the Yukon women?
Incredible.
You know?
By the way,
I flatlined for an hour and a half. Yeah. And then he turned to me and said, and where are you from? And I said, from Newtown, Connecticut. And he said, that's why you're here. Wow. And I do believe he was kind of tapping the desk when he said it. He said, I learned so much on my journey while my heart had stopped. I learned about kindness. I learned about being given choices. I learned about how to live here. I learned about the peace and beauty of heaven. You need to bring my message back to your friends and neighbors in Newtown. Wow. Well, that's heavy. Yeah. That's heavy. This was.
I mean, you weren't looking for this.
No,
you weren't looking for this mission.
No, not at all. It's interesting because, you know, only now that you're saying it, I had been searching for how can I help. Everyone is doing such great, wonderful, beautiful things for the people of Newtown. How can I help? Can I write a funny column to lighten the mood in the local paper? Can I what? And there it was. Somehow I'm being asked to bring his message back, but I had no idea how.
Wow. Now let me just back up real quick, because when you say I flatlined for an hour and a half, just give us a little bit of the details. Well, I'll tell you how I remember it just from the book. Is basically he went in for some surgery.
Minor surgery.
Minor surgery, and while he was being operated on, they noticed that he had a heart problem. And there was a bigger problem with some valves in his heart. And so he went in for surgery for that, and that's when he basically died on the surgical table.
Close.
Okay.
Close. Which is good. That you really read that, didn't you?
I did.
He had gone in because of the heart problem, the valve problem. He had had a stent put in.
Oh, that was it. Yeah. Okay.
Very well, not to us. If it's happening to me, it's not. Hundreds of thousands of times. Right, but you know what? You know, the easy surgery is when it happens to someone else, not you. But he was fine. They had brought him into CCU. 5 hours later, for some unknown reason, his heart stopped.
Wow.
They worked on him, going as far as open chest massage.
Right.
For an hour and a half. There was a period of about 10 minutes where his heart came back on its own, and then stopped again. And during that time, there was very little oxygen going to his brain. So much so that when he finally came back, it was a marvel that he had no brain damage at all.
Yeah, I mean, in their Herculean efforts to try to bring him back, they actually broke 5 ribs because they were working on him so much.
Absolutely,
But from a medical point of view, his heart had stopped. He was dead for an hour and a half. I mean, this wasn't, hey, let's, jolt him back, but this was an extended period of time.
Extended period. They tried to jolt him back, I understand, about 17 times, and then they had to go in and do the hand massage.
Now, and luckily for us, he's going to be calling in. Hopefully in a few minutes here, so we'll be able to get it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Oh God, and I hope and he'll tell me what I'm saying wrong.
No. But I mean, he seems to me just. I mean, I only know him through reading what you wrote for him and you wrote together in the book. But it sounds like he wasn't an overly spiritual person, wasn't an overly Christian person.
Not at all.
But in the sense, he said that he was struck by, first of all, the peace and the light of what he saw.
Yes.
And then this concept of free choice, free will, that you had to make this decision and that you had to decide to have this personal relationship with God. Is that, am I putting words into his mouth?
No, what he learned, because he had a conversation with God, not verbal, and he was given the opportunity to enter heaven, this beautiful, unimaginably beautiful place, or come back to earth and finish his life's work, whatever that was. What he learned in that is that God is a God of choice. He'll give us opportunities, as he brought me to Tracy, as he gives us all opportunities. It's up to us to make the choice, and the best choice for ourselves and those around us. He's learned to be kind. He's learned to be kinder to himself than he had been. He never believed he was a good man. He is. He's a wonderful person. He just made maybe not the best choices. This is the message is the here and now, living in the here and now, because of what he learned there.
Be kind to people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then in the book,
that certainly resonated with me, because that's the word in Newtown. Be kind.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had the same sensation when that tragic day when you heard about the shooting, and I go to Walnut Hill Community Church, and there are a number of families there that actually had children that passed away, and as a church, we've just done everything we can to reach out to these families. We even had James Taylor come, the James Taylor, who wanted to give a concert, and we hosted it at the church there. We had a special speaker in Christian circles. She's fairly well known. It's Rick Warren is he wrote The Purpose-Driven Life and some of these other books. Well, his wife came and spoke, and they had a tragedy in their family where their son committed suicide. So here, from the Christian perspective, you're trying to reach out to people that are in pain because of a loss of a child, especially so senselessly, and yet you're trying to bring them a sense of hope that this isn't all there is, but that there is an afterlife. Now, from the Christian perspective, I would say, it's an afterlife with Christ. And I resonate with what Tracy was saying, where you really have to make that decision to have a relationship. I mean, that works nicely with the biblical aspect of it. I don't want to put words into his mouth.
No, absolutely it does. And it's one thing, of course, obviously, you lose a child, you lose a grandchild, anyone who suffers a loss. It's one thing to know or to hope that and believe that person, you'll see them again. It's not the end. It's a beautiful place, and yet the pain of the loss of this earthly presence. Of course, how do you take that away?
Yeah.
You really can't. But the best you can do is to give hope.
Yeah. From my point of view, my Christian point of view, my sense is the Bible says that we have the image of God in us. And so there's the eternal in us. There's something that says that, it isn't just one and done. It isn't just, hey, we, live, drink, and be merry because tomorrow you die and it's over.
Yeah.
We're eternal beings. And there's a yearning for reaching out to God, reaching out to something eternal. And I think a little bit from what I was reading about what Tracy was saying, he got that.
He got it.
The sense that there's free will and you have to make this decision, that you're just not a dust in the wind, another brick in the wall, regardless of what that musician wrote about that. But that we are free will, and we have a free will, and we need to reach out to God. I mean, that's what I got out of it.
And that's what he got out of it.
Yeah.
And, he is the messenger. He says he is merely and purely and totally the messenger of that which he was given. And that is his job here now, to deliver that message. I've been asked, I've been honored with the task of bringing that message to as many people as we can through the words in the book.
Yeah.
And yet, with all that I wrote, there were some chapters, there are 2 in there, that I handed them over to Tracy.
Yeah, he pretty much put it in his own words.
He had to. He had to. I couldn't. Much of the book is Tracy, as he has told me, and CJ writing it.
Yeah.
But there were 2 chapters in there, particularly the final chapter. Tracy, you're writing these.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting also, because I didn't even know. I mean, a lot of, when you read or you have guests like this or you meet someone new, you realize how little you really know about a certain aspect of life. And it's called NDE, near-death experiences. And there are some very common themes that people that have had near-death experiences have. And you mentioned when we were talking before, there's this movie out right now, Heaven is for Real, which it was in the movie theater. Yep. Actually, I don't mean to keep bragging on my church, but at the Walnut Hill Community Church, they had one of the families.
Yes.
And they have a very specific message from that. But the same kind of thing, that, death isn't the end. And he talks about the sort of 4 common denominators in these NDEs. And one is a sense that there's like the 4 phases. Detachment from the body. You have a sense of hovering over, something like that. Becoming aware of their physical surroundings. There's you understand that. And then there's this sort of supernatural phase. This is where they embark on a journey along a white path towards a bright light, might see or hear a higher power, meet with loved ones who have died before them, and undergo a life review, and may be invited in and enter into the light, something like that. And then the last one is the final phase, which is talking about returning after this near-death experience.